here we have our character broadsheets. We make references to characters past and have invited characters from previous campaigns into the current runs, but with no context, the legends that many of these characters became would be lost to time. So I wanted to take some time to talk to each player about a character that they played to keep legends alive and possibly hold their memories hostage so that way I can leverage them against the fresh faces of our adventures. See you last Saturday. So tonight we're going to be talking about Saul. Here with Kyle. So Kyle, how long have we been playing together? It's been like 6 years, right? Or has it been over 6 years? I can't remember how long ago 2.0's campaign.
Playing D&D?
Yeah, just like tabletop gaming in general.
We gotta think about jobs we had when we first played. Like, what job did you have when Tad lived with 2.0?
Oh, I was an electrician.
Oh, okay. So, how long have you been an electrician?
9 years.
So yeah, probably something like 8, probably 8, 7 then. Because I don't think you were still a trainee at that point.
No, I would have been because it was 5 years of trainee school. I think Josh was working at the Diamond Knot back then, right?
Because I've been working my job for 9 years now.
So you would have been like what, like 3 years in, 2 years in? Because we weren't were we living together when we started?
No. Were we? I think I lived alone at that. No.
Yeah, you might have lived downtown for at least a little bit.
I lived alone for 2 years.
So when we've talked on this before about how we pretty much started because you were like, hey, Community has a D&D episode, and we laughed at that. And then you were like, Harmon Quest. You introduced me and Amanda to Harmon Quest, and that was pretty much.
It was like just like after I think the first season.
Yeah, for sure. And then we were like, oh, but we don't have anybody to play. And 2.0 was like, well, I can DM. That's kind of how I remember it. I don't know if you had like talked about it before then or anything like that.
I think he was like in the room, and he was like the only one who's ever played, because none of us had played. Right. So we were like, oh, this guy actually can do it. Harmon Quest was made 2016.
Yeah, so that would have been when we started, so 2016. So we've been at it for going on 7 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
That's fucking wild. When we had like after we'd all made our first characters and everything like that, and we all sat down to play, what was your honest opinion of like the entirety of day one? When we all sat down and started rolling and playing, like how did you feel about like, was this something we were going to be doing for the next 6 years, or was this like, all right, this is kind of, I don't know I don't know how to feel about this, or what was, do you have a memory of like?
I mean, the whole thing was surprising that people shared this, because I didn't think anyone would be down. So I was just happy that someone was actually down for a different thing, and we're excited because I like
right.
I was always kind of into it, but I never had the opportunity. Just like I've always been into like LARPing. Like I always thought that sounded really fucking cool.
Same.
But who the fuck? Like, yeah, like no one wants to go to a fair and pretend to be I was gonna say Middle Eastern, medieval in.
yeah, medieval. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty neat. That because I mean I know I think we vaguely talked about it like in high school.
Yeah, like everyone's like fuck bitches, get money. I'm like, I want a fucking foam sword. I want to pretend I'm a Jedi.
Right, naturally, as you do. And then when you sit down to play like any role-playing game that we've played so far, because we've played Pathfinder, or not Pathfinder, we played D&D, Stars Without Number. I don't know, did you weren't there for the little bit of Cyberpunk that we ran so far, but we ran like a few of these things now. When you sit down to play TTRPGs, Like, what is something that you look to get out of it, like either on a session by session basis or
Tabletop.
on it? Yeah, yeah. Any of those, any of the RPG like games that we all play together, not like
I
video
mean,
games.
with tabletop, like it's just from uh for me, tabletop is just kind of like writing a book. That's kind of because I love novels. And I like kind of getting lost in the whole fantasy setting. So D&D to me is kind of like just the closest I'm ever gonna get to like writing my own book.
I got you. It's actually pretty insightful, actually. And then out of all the things that we've done, you know, we've gone to space, we've traveled through time, we've become gods, we've done boatloads of stuff, destroyed entire dragonborn civilizations, made deals with the actual devil. What is something that you've wanted to do in session that you haven't gotten to do yet?
Um, finish a main plot line.
Yeah, that tends
Like
to
the
be pretty hard
best
to do.
it is because just like a novel, you know, you expect your MC to have plot armor, and that's not the case in a D&D game. The closest I've gotten
True.
is with Saul, and he achieved his goal in a roundabout way of achieving it, which for his character works. But any of my other guys, I haven't gotten there yet.
Such is the way. Like, yeah. The main, it would seem out of the campaigns that we've played like so far, all of them. It seems that we start really strong and then we go squirrel, 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 and next thing you know, it's like, wait, what? How the fuck did we even get here? And then, oh yeah, that's right, we gotta really hit hard back to get back into this. So I can definitely feel that. So for Saul, Saul Fortuna, the old trickster who wanted to be remembered forever, right? Idolized as a legend, if I'm not mistaken. That was
Yeah,
my
kind of played
campaign.
into his character flaw. Yeah.
Right. That was for my campaign 1, right?
No,
Huh?
that was from your second campaign. No, wait, no, your first. Yes.
Yeah, my first. Yeah. So Saul Fortuna was his name. How'd you come up with the name for that? Do you remember, like, playing around with any names or anything like that?
I always play with names. I have chests full of cool sounding names and last names to match them up to. I know
One of these.
Fortuna.
It opens. I swear to God, it's just been glued shut.
No, not where you've kept
There
your
it is.
condoms since you were
There it is.
13.
Okay, that's my wallet.
So I remember. I don't think I remember Soul. I don't remember exactly where I got Soul. I know there was a method I did, and it's something I'm excited for, and I'll probably remember it maybe as I talk. But
Okay.
Fortuna was played in directly to his backstory, because he was lucky. So out of all of his stuff, what was his main like in a novel? What made him, you know, be the standout in his own I'm the main character story is that he was lucky, kind of like a Harry Potter thing, where it wasn't he was the strongest or the smartest or the bravest.
The boy who lived.
Yeah, it was more. He got the lucky feet, and I thought, okay, you know, there's this broken feet. How can I play this broken feet into my character and make it, you know, still broken but make sense? And that was, and that had to do with him and his backstory and tricking a devil and making it out of that situation.
Yeah, that's right. It was Fraz Erblu, the demon prince.
Yeah, and making out of the situation intact. and into this new world. It was all
Right,
based
right,
on
right.
him unlocking this hidden feat inside of himself. Because that was, I think, the main plot with your first campaign is everyone started with a feat.
Yeah. The premise, at least, when we covered Emiko, I'd gone over the fact that at the time Amanda was like, I don't know if I want to play D&D anymore. Like, this is whatever. And then I was like, okay, fine. And if you recall, remember we played Josh's Fallout game, and then we were like, okay, that is what it is. And then we were like, well, nobody else is gonna play, so maybe it's just gonna be the three of us. I think we even had Alan at one point who was supposed to, and then he was just like, I'm gonna go be at McDonald's. And then I was like, I want you guys to be Emiko and Saul to be basically plucked out of like time and be kind
Yeah.
of like historical. And then like that was the part of the backstory was like, what was something that you did that was so noteworthy that you could attain like almost a celebrity?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was didn't you beat him in like a card game or some shit like that?
Yeah. It was he cheated. He cheated in a card game. It's something he
He's-
wasn't supposed to
yeah.
win, and he won because his feat developed. So he lost what he was supposed to lose because the god made it okay. This is impossible. He can't lose, so he lost. And then this impossible feat changed reality, and so he won and
Right.
won the demon soul.
Right, as in the form of his unlucky or lucky cursed stone, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly.
Yeah, that's what he
Right.
put him into. Because he
So
got all this, he got this unimaginable power, and in soul fashion, he wasted it by just
skipping it.
making this useless rock and skipping it off because he wanted to have the a rock that skipped the most in the water. So he pretty much got a wish spell, and that's what he used it on, is a skipping stone.
Fucking yep. It's now I'm remembering all of the Saulism. So Saul was a changeling, right?
Hmm.
And now that I'm saying it out loud, I think wasn't there something about changelings that was the reason why you named him Saul? It was like a single, like 3 letter or like a small first name.
No, that wasn't it.
Oh, so, anyways, but yes, he was a changeling, and he was a sorcerer, right?
Yeah, he was a shadow sorcerer.
Because we had that whole like fuck wizards, like
Yeah, yeah,
subplot of him being like, fuck you, you wizard.
yeah,
Uh,
he his basic beef is that they're not magic. They're nerds. Who what's magic about them is their books and their wands and whatever. Like they're not real magic people.
you fucking
Anyone
nerds with their
anyone could
role
be a
playing
wizard.
games.
Yeah, like if a barbarian read enough, he could cast magic, but that's not real magic. Like he's using the magic in the world, where real magic comes from within you. Like like you're not generating what you're shooting.
Right, which is of course why everybody says that sorcerer should be a constitution based caster, naturally.
Yeah.
And then so uh-oh. She's just looking for Binky. Man, this kid's got some pipes. Give me one sec. Okay, so we finally beat back the Cerberus that is Cassie. Maybe. Alright. So Saul as a character, he probably had the most personality out of anybody in the party. I think is very, very safe to say. Maybe a close second is like John, Senior Writer. But when you came up with the character, tell me about Saul, about his personality, the role that he was supposed to fill, and then like tell me about his flaw, which very quickly became his quirk. Tell me about him as a person in the world, if you could.
So how I've always kind of created characters is pretty much what I said earlier. Is I've read a lot of fantasy novels, At that time, it was mostly fantasy novels. A little bit after that, it became more online novels and web novels, if you will. Um, so a lot of them were based. A lot of characters I've made, which I've made, 50 characters, and I've played, 4 of them.
Yep, sounds about right.
So a lot of characters I made, they were mainly based on their end, like what I wanted for them, what I wanted them to want. Soul was actually made the opposite. So Soul was made from an idea I had based on books I read about mimics and doppelgangers and stuff like that, like shape-changing creatures.
I am vaguely
Who-
remembering that now.
Yeah, so and these creatures, what made the novels a novel is these creatures developed, sentience beyond being a mob. So I wanted something like that. I wanted a changeling, which is what D&D had. At the time I
Right.
didn't even know that Eberron was newer, and I didn't
Yeah.
know they had a changeling. So when I saw that, everything kind of clicked in what I wanted as a character. Now,
Right.
the
Because I remember us
backstory-
trying to workshop we were trying to workshop a way to be able to change shape, and then here comes Eberron. We're like, oh, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
it works. I didn't have everything, but it had everything without breaking the system.
Right.
So with him, where most of my guys, I created more of what I want for them. He was more a race I created. So with him, we even made it so that he was a type of changeling that was pretty much a modified birth of changelings, because changelings by the Eberron, had their own backstory and all that shit. Pretty
Right.
much about a goddess in a desert who I forgot the entire backstory, but pretty much she was the mother of all changelings or some shit. Like I forgot it in its entirely, bro. So it was a female goddess in a desert, and that's all I really remember. And changelings just were changelings. Like they originally are just a white-haired, blank-eye people who turn into other people. So I wanted mine more kind of gritty. So mine, I think we called them personality changelings.
Yes.
In which case, my changelings, their style was they're not a person. Like they don't have an identity until they take pretty much an identity from a previously dead changeling. So Soul was never it was an identity that he took because he was a walking husk as a child, just like all changelings were, and he came across the grave of Sol Fortuna. And for all these changelings, there's markings on the graves that pretty much tell you their personality. So these changelings would just walk around, as blank slates. And once they found a grave, they would look at the grave. It would give them a first name and last name. They'd pretty much be that that like Final Fantasy, little chart, that little circle chart that's like, this is, he's mean here and a little bit of happy here with some
Right. Yeah.
that kind of
yeah.
weird looking chart that's a circle.
Yeah. The one that where it drags out like the web
Like
from the middle.
personality. Yeah. And they take that and they transform into that person, however they imagine that person to be, but they take that personality. So there's been Sol Fortunas before, and they've all acted the same way, but they were, one was a ranger, one was a barbarian, blah blah blah. They were all secretly changelings because they don't tell people they're changelings. I don't think Soul
That's right.
ever I don't think anyone ever found out that he was a changeling.
I could have swore that at one point he had told Celia, because she was a regular changeling.
I don't remember that.
I remember. Maybe not. Maybe it might have been an out of game discussion, because you remember when you guys got drafted into the military or conscripted, and then she was like, "I'm a changeling," and you were like, "Whoa, what? Whoa, we don't say that." Whoa, and they were like, "You're a changeling? You fucking come this way," and you were like, "Human."
Yeah, like he, that would have been surprising to him, especially if she never told him. But yeah, he never used, and he never would use, their skill, which is basically, they morph back in the original form and scare someone,
unsettling
to make
visage,
them re-roll. Yeah, like he would just die instead of doing that.
Now I remember. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. There was that when you guys were pretending to be like Midwestern tourists in my elf town, and you guys started speaking with like a Wisconsin accent or whatever. Oh, who was it? Oh my god, that was one of the funniest. Sorry, but even then, you guys both changed, and then you didn't explain to each other how or why. But I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Keep going. Sorry. So you created this sort of story about these changelings that take the personality of other ones, or take the name, but not necessarily the personality.
No, they take the name and the personality. Like
Gotcha.
that's what they get. They get that personality. So if he died, another changeling could just pretty much be Soul. It would just be a different, maybe pretending to be a different race, because it doesn't say what race they are. Maybe pretending like, it would be like a different class though.
I gotcha. And then as the sorcerer, what role, like, because I think we had vaguely come up with a concept of like character, or of party composition, but I also was very, very like stressful of like, hey, you don't have to worry about party composition, because you guys will be able to have healing, and you'll be able to do all these sorts of things. And so the role that you had Saul fill, would you consider him like a glass cannon? Because I know you had, like, at the time when we had the rules kind of wrong at the time, but you had his meta magic options, and I was completely with it. Of like, what was his big fucking nova that he would do?
So at the beginning, the big thing he would do was a double shatter, because shatter was his main skill in the low levels.
Right.
Love the shatter, because he hated light, he hated fire.
Hence the shadow sorcerer, right?
Yeah, he because at one point he wandered. His entire backstory is basically him falling into situations and then falling out into other situations. Like, I don't know if you remember we actually did the whole backstory of him traveling through the layers of hell.
Right. I forgot about that.
Like, he fell ass over backwards into almost every layer of hell.
All the way to Fraser, or no, not Fraser Blue. He was riding the fucking river Styx on accident.
Yeah,
and then
he got
off at every stop, basically all the way down.
Yeah, pretty much. He got him.
Jesus.
Got him between like one of the Ugalofs and Devil Wars at one point, and tricked the cat at one point in the mines. I forgot what the cat was called.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot what that fucking thing was called too. So,
because it pretty much played up into why all these creatures want him.
Right. Because he was able to slip past everybody, because they were like, he's a tactical genius. He's amazing. And he was just like, well, I guess I'll push this button over here. I'm gonna flip this
lever.
I blew up an entire mine shaft. That's right. So, would you say that was the quirk of his that you tried to play to? Was like everything was an accident, like a what do they call that?
So he pretty much, yes, what you said was he was pretty much a glass cannon. That's why I really played up later on when it became apparent that he was a last cannon. I played up defenses more of offensives because I
Right.
knew that he only needed I can only attack once a turn, and when you're dealing with other creatures that attack 3 times a turn, like you don't need that many attacks. So I figure I
Right.
just need some either scale-based attacks that will just keep getting stronger as I get stronger, or one big attack, and then everything else should be defensive and situational.
Why does that make so much more sense in hindsight?
So I just thought, okay, if I have shatter scale, so as my lower levels, it's also AOE, and it's not a bad AOE. So I just need shatter until like level 6, and between everything else, I could just have defensive or situational. Which, as a sorcerer who can't change his stripes, it's
Right.
very important anytime you gain a level that it's something that's gonna help you gain your next level or stay alive, pretty much.
Yeah.
Get me?
That makes 100% more sense.
And everything
So
else, I just flavored.
So speaking of which, with the everything else and as you got later on in levels, by the end of it, Saul was do you remember what because you had multi-classed in Warlock after signing the contract with Asmodeus.
Yes.
And do you remember what the level split was for that? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was like 15 sorcerer, 5 warlock. I think.
I'd have to look.
Because you guys got to level 20 with the fucking the time jump bump. And was it a strictly mechanical
6.
reason why you wanted it was 6, so 14 and 6?
14 and 6.
Was it a strictly mechanical reason why you wanted Warlock, or was there like an RP thing that you wanted to do, or how did you come up with that?
Warlock went with the whole getting powers from a devil thing. So
Gotcha.
that was most of the reason. But also in it, there's always comes with the metagaming. I wanted more spell slots. And
yeah, all 2 of the ones that you get.
Well, I mean, it's level 6 in Warlock. You do get like it gives you higher level spell slots.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
I always forget that.
So I was able to get an extra like 2 or 3, but they were like level 4th level stuff. So it's like not
Gotcha.
weak.
Yeah, that's true.
And then in looking up that, like I gotta get more stuff that help me deal damage without wasting spell slots, because I could just hex someone and then Eldritch Blast them, and that ended up being one of my highest damaging things, because you shoot like 6 or 5 or whatever Eldritch Blast, and each one turns into also a plus 1d6.
That's right. That was your Nova. By the end of it, it was
pretty much
action. It was action Eldritch Blast, which was 5, right? And then you could twin that, and so that ended up being like 10. And I think you could quicken as well, so you could use a bonus action
exactly
to do it all over again. And then what was it, like heightened spell? I think was another one where you could like re-roll.
I did a quicken and twin.
There was something. Maybe it was a feat.
It's empower. It's empower.
That's right.
Because on anything you can empower and re-roll as many dice as you are.
Warlock, or sorcerer.
Sorcerer, I think. Yeah. So I can pretty much, take anything that's not a 5 or a 6 and just re-roll it. You can only do it once per dice, but. So you can turn a 30 damage into a 50 pretty quick.
Surprisingly quick. Yeah, with every single. All right, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1. All right, I want to take all of these and re-roll them. Well, what do you know? Because they can't get any lower than higher. 1, so yeah, they're always going to be higher. You could, at the minimum, double the amount.
And it's like one meta, per just switch. entire switch.
Right,
So 1 mana
right, right.
per 13 rerolls.
So, speaking of this like shift of your Nova and of all of the Eldritch Blast and whatnot, like when you made the character, did you see them going to this point in Warlock, or at what point did you like look ahead and go, oh, I need to shore up my defenses? Like was that the plan from the beginning, or was there an event that had happened where you were like, aha, I get it now. I need to pick up Tomb of Levistus as as one of my invocations because I'm squishy.
That kind of came with it. I didn't plan on being defensive as a warlock, but it's been a long time since I played warlock. I just when I became it, I saw all the things they had, and I was like, yes, yes,
I'll
queen.
take
Like,
two of those, please. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
who? Like it came to a point you're like why wouldn't anyone pick this? Like, this is amazing.
This is so
But
good. Yeah, yeah.
that's because like picking warlock stuff, I didn't have to pick offensively. Like the only thing I think I picked offensively was Hex and Eldritch. Everything else was like stay alive.
Right, 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 right. So now we've gotten to a weird part in the collection of our campaigns, yours, Josh's, and my own, where we actually kind of have, in a way, we've kind of split the canon of many of our characters about three ways, right? I have a canon in mine, you have a canon in yours, and Josh has come up with a canon in his as well that kind of justifies this sort of like almost like a Fallout style split where like the timeline splits off, and like maybe instead they went and did this. But in your own head canon, has Saul's story ended? Or if not, then how do you envision Saul's chapter closing where you're done playing with like or where his story doesn't have to develop any further?
Well, his story has ended. He's a god. I don't ever plan on making him mortal. The only thing I would see that I could ever play him again is if he kind of created a clone soul and just launched him out somewhere.
Just what better champion than myself?
Yeah, pretty
Go.
much. Like it'd be like, I need a champion, and then he'd just make himself as a champion. He'd be like, perfect. Or he'd launch him out to unbalance somewhere so that he could balance it later and be the hero for balancing it.
Jesus Christ, that's such a villain thing to do. But it does make a lot of sense for Saul as a character.
Yeah, because it's kind of like when you're too good at a job, you make your own errors. If you're a programmer, maybe you fuck up. So that I understand how important you are in being that
They need to
programmer.
remember.
They need to know you're good at what you do.
Jesus Christ.
And it sucks because I see everyone else kind of bring back their characters, and I want to, just because you get that nostalgic. Oh man, I want to.
Do you now?
These guys are all coming back. I want Soul to fucking pop up like. Like
really?
in my head when things happen, I do a little when you guys are all talking and role playing. In my head, I'm also role playing. Like you'll talk, and in my head I'll be like, "Did someone call my name?" And just start role playing in my head about what Saul would be doing if he appeared right now.
I like that a lot, actually.
So it does suck that I can't bring him back for this stuff anymore. But I count myself extremely lucky where his story ended, and I don't want to ruin that.
Right.
So besides like I said, some entity pretty much being a copy of him. Besides that, I am happy where Soul left off. I never ever envisioned him becoming a god at the end of his arc.
Right.
Which kind of broke me now, because now I expect all my arcs to end that way. And instead I got a dead Deus.
Yeah. All right. So in the essence of like the unseen story arc of your characters, Saul specifically, what's an adventure plot that in your head happened that we didn't actually get to ever see like play out, whether it's a one shot or whether it's in campaign or anything like that? Like is there a story that like you like for Saul that like just lives rent free, but we never actually played?
What do you mean?
So, for instance, like, did Saul ever go on a solo adventure with himself, or hire out the rest of the Four Talons? Like, oh, I need you guys to help me do this, or is there any adventure that Saul went
That's
on in
definitely
your own head
something he
canon?
would do. I never imagined that, except like when you did bring up the fact that Four Towns were still alive. I did, you know, probably imagine something like that in my head. Just what I would be doing with them if Soul
Right.
knew that they were still around and what was going on. And I've only said a couple times, I think, as things happen. Like I think I mentioned, like when you said the Sonics died, I did mention that that would make Soul angry. He wouldn't like that at all.
Right.
Mm. And then
So,
when you're talking about how they just generally annoyed them by moving it next door, you know, constantly banging on the walls, you would
yeah,
love.
yeah, yeah.
I would like to know like who was leading them at that point. Like, and I'd like to meet that guy because he sounds like someone who was directly taught by Soul.
Yeah. Right. Someone who knew the prime
Like maybe,
directive as
yeah,
opposed to the front.
maybe like Soul's like a patron or some shit, or maybe Soul left etchings, or like, because I could see Soul like
Left
leaving.
cave etchings like
Yeah.
cuneiform on some stone tablets.
Leaving, like, yeah, like leaving a false prophecy or some shit.
Right. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Um, you know what, I kind of like that. But all of that to say that, and you've kind of already answered this, but maybe more of a definitive yes or a no. Wrapping it up with Saul, if there was a way for you to play him again, would you play him again, or do you think that he is done? Like, even if there was that hypothetical, I want a champion to, why not be me? Would that be a thing for you to actually take on the mantle of Saul Fortuna again as his player?
So, like I said, if it was a Soul, a creation of Soul, uh, to just pretty much be a puppet, sure. I would, yes, I would love to play Soul again, as long as it's not the real Soul. I'd also love for you to play Soul, because I would love Soul in his god form to be a part of things and not necessarily be played by me.
Right. I can see that. I can definitely see the appeal to something like that.
Yeah,
That's
so like
interesting.
I love either way. But the only way I'd play him again, or allow somebody else to play him again, or to have him be something that's killable, would be something that's not really him.
Right. So that way, canonically, you can preserve OG Saul.
Yeah, so that
And
Soul
right,
himself is still, you know, a god primarily of my realm. Um, but something he can project off somewhere for whatever reason. You could make up any kind of reason he would do it, and it probably makes sense.
you
At
know,
least to him as a personality. But yeah, I
I
mean, I could see him coming back and then just either not knowing that he's a fake, or knowing that he's a fake, and then when he dies, that's when people would find out, because he just kind of,
yeah. And then just
and then
I
just some kind of over like embellished death, in which he's like kind of like
naturally.
Deadpool, just kind of keeps dying, and then just, you know, at the end you see him in the background undig himself up and like walk off whistling into heaven or some shit.
I think just off of what you're saying, the notion of having a Saul champion of Saul come back and be like, no, you don't understand. And then people be like, who the fuck are you talking about? And that's his whole mission is
Is to
like They don't
Remember
know
me.
who I am. Yeah, they don't know who I am. So I need my champion to go spread my name, which is something
Yeah.
that all deities would want to do, right? That's very, very interesting.
Yeah,
And
if that were the plot, just straight out the gate, he'd play it off like Agent Smith. He would try to literally get
replicate.
people into him. So he
Oh
pretty
no,
much start a literal
a,
cult of people
a
who
cult of
dress and
Saul.
look like
Yep,
Saul.
the black
And
leather duster,
they would
the
be,
the black coif
out
of
with
hair. Yep,
books. Have you heard the good news? Door to door.
that's a
Like,
cleric if I've ever fucking heard one.
some of them would be clerics.
Oh my god.
The important part is remembering Soul. So that'd be the mission.
There's some possible food for thought for future if you ever ended up wanting to hop on the train with Emiko, Celia, Kaioken, John Ryder.
Yeah, because I miss the interactions between the characters, because it would be interesting to see how they react to seeing Soul if they still remember him. So I don't remember
Boy, oh boy.
I don't remember why he's forgotten.
Well, as with all good things, there's plenty of mysteries out there, and
So you
all
never
you
told
have
me.
to do is suss them out.
Oh, I thought you might have told me and I forgot.
Never told anybody. That's one of the many mysteries of why is this world so different from before. Who's to say? Maybe if we get a Saul champion, maybe that'll be his mystery, and then we'll figure that out. We might flush it out entirely. But that is everything that we've got for Saul. Is there anything that you want, whether it's like a frustration, a goal, or your favorite part, or anything like that? Is there anything that you wanted to round off pertaining to Saul Fortuna?
No, like I said, I'm really happy where he went. The only downside is, I don't get him as much as I want anymore. You did leave a good point. If my guy dies, I could probably have my new character be a Herald of Soul. What'd be funniest though is if he comes down and has his memory wiped as well. And just further pisses off Soul. So then he keeps getting like prophecies from his god of like, remember me.
My god.
Like a patron, like we're like supposed to see quests from his patrons.
Dude, that just gave me goosebumps. I think you should probably prep that fucking character.
Won't you fucking kill off my character, you son of a bitch?
Because
I like
you
Fate.
know what? Oops, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I like Fate too. Fate is a very complex character, but that's for another episode. For now, Saul Fortuna, deity extreme, I guess, and possible patron of another one.
I'm just imagining him coming down like Terminator, waking up naked but with a handwritten note, and the note says, "Make them remember me." And he reads the note, looks up, and says, "Who am I?"
Oh my god.
Who wrote this? Where am I?
Oh shit.
And
All
I
right.
just sold to heaven. Son of a bitch. Your first mission, remembering me as well.
Well, you heard it here first.
The whole reason that the veil was fixed was Soul was having issues talking to his chosen one.
Oh my god, this is too good.
And he kicked it like a TV, kicked the weave. Come on, work, you son of a bitch.
And ripped it. And now, okay. All right. Well, in that case, we now have some thinking and some planning to do for that one. That is fucking awesome. Oh my god.